Hey guys, Ralph Havens here, Miracles, Magic, and Coffee. And hopefully we have Dr. Tom Giamatteo on, one of my longtime friends and colleagues and teachers and mentors. He is the co-developer of integrative manual therapy, a medical intuitive form of therapy that I've studied 10 years plus from 2000 to 2010, 110 classes, and now still take classes from him and with him and use every day. We're using it right now because my little boy Ben fell a week and a half ago and injured his shoulder pretty good. And so he's not using it, it's just hanging there, and we're working on it. And so we're doing some really specific things to heal bone, And a while back, I worked on a couple of little kids that injured themselves on trampolines and stuff. And we worked on and healed up bone bruising. Who knows how much of the bone was injured, but we did that. And one was in person. I actually did it with my hands, and one was at a distance. Somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, Ralph, can you do this healing?" In fact, I hear somebody coming in.
Tom said 5 minutes.
Okay, so Tom will be here in 5 minutes. Awesome. And so Tom and Sharon Giamatteo, they were the ones that taught me this technique called bone bruise technique. It's a very specific way to feel a bone to see if it's bruised or even fractured, and then to start to really change it right before your eyes. And that's what I did in person with a little guy, and he went from not being able to put his foot on the ground to wanting to run around, and he was like normal again, normal. He was running around again. And then that also happened with somebody at a distance. Basically, somebody had reached out to me and said, "Can you work on this guy, little guy, did this crazy maneuver, and now he's not putting his foot on the ground," and then he was. And with our little guy, Ben, after that fall, he was not using his arm. It's getting better, but it's going slower than that. And Ben lets me work on him in person some. He has me on a schedule, just a few minutes a day here and there. And so I also work on him at a distance because I want to work on him more. And so we're going to talk about bones. Now, one thing that I think we might be talking about, we'll see what Tom thinks, is that Tom works really hard. And my sister asked me years ago, like, "Ralph, why do you work so hard?" And, I was getting up at 7, and I would go for a run, but then I'd go straight to work and work till, in the afternoon, and maybe go for a run then, maybe not, but then work again through the evening. And then on the weekends, I went to classes and, just traveled all over the country. And it's like, why was I working so hard? And so there's like the idea I want to explore with Tom is your heart's desires. Like, were your heart's desires implanted at birth? Why is it that you have this desire to do whatever it is you have a desire to do? Now, of course, there's a lot of people that maybe don't have a lot of desires anymore. Maybe they've kind of like just said, "You know what, I'm good. I'm going to just kind of get by, just do kind of what I'm told, get a job. It's not the best job, but, when I'm a certain age, I'll retire." That's the old way of thinking about stuff. I think a lot of people now, though, are thinking like, what's my, how do I do what I want to do? Something's gnawing at them. And it's been talked about in the various traditions that I work with in yoga, and the bone is a very spiritual structure, One of the techniques we have uses an energy that's a frequency. It's the same frequency that is the color purple. And it's a spiritual energy, and it helps repair bone. And so bone, spirit, your heart's desires, why you do what you do, why do you have this gnawing at you to like be something or do something or do something big in the world? I want to talk to Tom about that. Initially, I was also talking to him about like magnesium. So we'll see which way it goes. He's going to be on in just a little bit. Let me know if you're watching on Facebook, what you would like us to talk about for healing. If something were to be done for you today, what might that be? So let me know. I'm going to put it in the comments. What might be done for you today? Healing. And let's see what Tom has to say. So join us, share this as we get all set up, and we're about to get Tom Gimateo on the screen here. Let's see, that is like good. I'm going to give myself a heart. Okay, so yeah, click like, click share, and let's see what's going on. When I remember the bone bruise technique was something that it took us I had to take many classes to get to the point where I had the prerequisites to get the bone bruise technique, to get it taught to me. It was in the 3rd level of cranial class, and now I've taken like 20 levels of that version of cranial therapy. It was the 3rd level when they finally taught us bone bruise technique. It was also in the 3rd level of what's called the biomechanics class, which was how to help joints get more mobile and get the right balance. And so the 3rd level of that. So I think I took it in cranial 3 and learned this bone bruise technique. And that's what I used on the little guy that that hurt himself on a trampoline. And that's what I've been using on Ben and some other stuff, a bunch of other stuff to help him heal. And so we'll be talking to Tom in just a little bit. Let's see if somebody is commenting. Yeah, so in the meantime, I'm going to share something I've been sharing this morning because it's just cool. I've been sharing because it's just, you know, when I think of healing, there's so much that we don't know. And I got this message from somebody a while back. Kind of put a little expletive in here, so I kind of started out here, so even children can read this and watch this. But I got this really cool message after working with this guy in a group session, and he was just at such peace. And then my friend and the administrative guy in this group that we're in basically called me a wizard. So I thought that was kind of cool, you know. And the thing is, I feel like, and I know from experience that we all have that magic in us. And you could call it, what do you call it? You know, some people, when you say magic, well, that sounds scary, or that sounds weird, or mystical, or like not really true. And other people might call it spirit and grace and energy and chi and prana. And it's like, you know, it's kind of like this, you know, I believe, I'd love to hear what you guys believe. I believe healing is from God. It's from God. And it's kind of like my friend Kim Burnham, who told me about, who was one of my teachers at Integrated Manual Therapy, and also the person that told me to take Matrix Energetics for the first time. And she said, she likes to tell jokes. And she said, you know, there was a scientist and God, and they were talking. And the scientist told God, you know, God, I can make life. And God is like, oh, really? And so he says, yeah, I'll prove it to you. You go first. So God took some dirt and then blew air into it, breath of life. And then lo and behold, there was a human, and it was life. And so then the scientist said, okay, so watch this. And the scientist took some dirt, and God said, get your own dirt. I thought that was pretty cool. And so it's like, you know, if somebody has a cut, and the idea that a cut can heal, that's pretty magical. That's pretty incredible, that a body has the ability to repair itself if it gets cut. Some go beyond that, you know, an octopus will grow a whole limb back. So I'm going to invite Tom in, and but you know, so if somebody's dead, you can't heal a cut, but if they're alive, we can still see them heal. So I'm going to bring Tom on. Hey, Tom. It's still loading up. There he is. Yeah, we both have wild hair today.
Yeah.
Good to see you. So yeah, this is Tom Gimateo, longtime friend, colleague, mentor of many years. And I've been telling the story of the bone bruise technique because, you know, you've been helping me a lot this last week or so with Ben and fixing up what could be called a bone bruise, what could be called a fracture. And so I've been working on Ben because he fell off that zip line and hurt his clavicle, his collarbone. And I want to kind of open it up and just see which direction you want to go with this. because you taught me the bone bruise technique, and then this whole idea about healing, and how can that be that people can be healed from doing these simple techniques, or they don't, these techniques that look like you're not doing much. I'll say that. And then the idea like bone, talk about bone, like from what I understand, it's kind of like a spiritual structure, bone, purple, just ideas around that. And this idea, the other part, so I'll see whichever way you want to go, is, you and I, we work really, really, really hard. And there's something driving us, and there's this heart's desire for something. And I was just on a call with one of our healer coaches, Ilya, and she was saying, yeah, it seems like the heart's desires are implanted at birth. And it's just like driving us to something. Yeah, so anything you want to say about like working hard, heart's desires, why you have like multiple medical degrees. You were at a wedding and you actually were talking to us about Ben on a Sunday to help Ben in his healing. And it's like, you're just on and you're driven. And then there's this idea of bone and spirit and healing. And what direction do you want to go with all this? Because you're a chiropractor, you do work, people come to you to get fixed up from all sorts of very severe conditions. And but you're also doing stuff in the consciousness world. And yeah, what's going on?
Well, a couple things is that I feel, if we're talking a little bit more esoteric and spiritually, that when I met my first wife, Sharon Weiselfish Gimateo, who passed now about 6 years ago, we were slightly older. We were both beyond 30 plus years old, but Sharon said that, if you want to have a child, I'm willing to do that. And I said, you've done that, children. And I said to her, let's make the school our child.
Wow.
So our passion and our gift was, all the things we talked about in the past have been 90 to 95% have been developed and researched throughout history and time, from acupuncture to Ayurvedic medicines to other people's medicines. I feel we brought it together in an advanced world system piece that wasn't there and isn't translatable what the forefathers wanted of it at the same time. So in 2001, we formed the Connecticut School of Integrated Manual Therapy. And since then, we've probably graduated 500 to 600 complete graduates, but we've probably touched 5,000 to 10,000 students around the world. And the first statement is there's too many people that are ill, and we should all be working on the same side and not putting other people down.
Yeah.
And part two is we want to advance all forms of healthcare. So, the doctors are pretty stuck on, right now, you have to get the vaccination, and you have to do this, you have to do that, and don't do anything else type of thing. So there is this huge rift of everything else is bad. And that can't be completely true. So we wanted to make a place of being commutable, which came from the words the Boston Commons. So, back in the early 16 and 1700s, when America was being formed, they'd have these little towns, and the commons was where they would graze their cattle before they would sell it at market in pieces. So there's this bring everything together and have a cooperative or a group piece. So commutable comes from the word commons. And we feel that integrative manual therapy is sort of trying to bring the best of all tools together and advance them and still honor where they came from. We use a little acupuncture, we use a little Reiki, we use a lot of energy work, we do all these things, but we try to say this is where we got our original piece from, and here's how it's advanced. And even today, an integrative manual practitioner, and Ralph knows this a little bit too, is that we've taught a lot of people over the last 30 years, and somebody that took a class in the 90s and took 3 classes, calls himself an integrated manual practitioner. But in this era, we actually have to add consciousness and heart work and belief systems. And so there is a split of some people saying, well, it's not good enough anymore. But if you follow the upgrades, it is good enough a lot
Yeah.
faster on the way. My wife, Sharon, before I met her, moved from Israel back to the United States, and she met this woman called Mary Florentino, who passed in the 80s. And she was an occupational therapist working with children, and she was trying to teach her work to other physical therapists and occupational therapists. And that's really where physical therapy and occupational started, was to help children with disabilities grow and become complete people.
Yeah.
And most people think of physical therapists nowadays, if I have a neck pain, they're doctors of physical therapy, and they've really lost touch with their getting people whole and habilitated back into life again. There's sports medicine. Oh, I got this pain. If it doesn't work, we'll just have more surgery, or we'll just tape it up. So I'm sort of disappointed in the way that physical therapy and occupational therapy and speech therapy have gone, but they've been overbearing by the medical community. So Mary and Sharon worked together, and there was a big rift that physical therapists didn't like occupational therapists. So when Mary asked to do some body work that was out of her scope of practice, the physical therapist said, we can't teach that to an occupational therapist.
I remember those days. Yeah.
Right. And even today, if you really look at what they're divided or what Medicare pays for, it is a strong rift, and it hurts today. I am a chiropractor, I am a physical therapist, but since my stronger license is chiropractic, and people say, well, Tom made me walk out of a wheelchair, the insurance companies come back and basically say, but he's a chiropractor, he can't charge those codes.
Yeah.
Of physical medicine. And that's sad, because all these codes are universal, and every healthcare practitioner that's licensed and trained in their license scope can do it. But the insurance company basically says, no, we won't accept that. So there's this diversity. So our first mission statement was advance all forms of healthcare, from traditional MDs and surgeons to physical therapists, and who I also consider healthcare workers these days is teachers, music teachers, yoga instructors, personal trainers. They all touch people and try to help with wellness. So it should be healthcare and wellness people. All would benefit from learning a little bit different structure that we teach.
Yeah, and you guys do bring everybody in. I mean, I studied from and with chiropractors and MDs and naturopaths and physical therapists and massage therapists and
Patients,
people with no degrees at all, and they got to be very advanced practitioners and literally saved their children's lives. They got into it to save their children's lives, and now they're like advanced practitioners.
Right. So in that piece, Ralph, we went through the official bureaucracy to become a licensed educational institute by the state of Connecticut. So we jumped through all those hoops that when somebody graduates with us, they are actually a full healthcare practitioner. They need their CPR, they need to know all the jargon and everything like that. If you have a high school degree, we can bring you up to becoming a healthcare professional with the school.
And can they then put a shingle up, a little thing, and say, hey, I'm open for business and I can touch you and work on you and that sort of thing? Or does they need to get some sort of like licensure or degree thing or something from their state? Or
well, it depends on if there's only like 3 states that people can't really work in, because the state laws say you have to have a certificate to do any touching of a person.
wow.
But other than that, there are many states. Even the art of naturopathic medicine is only licensed in 16 states.
Yeah, I didn't know how many, but I knew it wasn't in every state.
Yeah. So people that get the degree and show some documentation, license sure allows it to be billed for insurance, and it also protects the community a little bit more. But it's just like getting a driver's license. How many people would you get in the car? The the license provides a safety factor, but not everybody is, it's a bare minimum protection in that.
Yeah.
So somebody can hang a shingle, and I believe in your state, in Washington and Oregon and even California, you can hang a shingle and just say, I'm an IMT practitioner, and you can't really say I'm doing physical therapy, I'm doing, the license things. You and I can't say we're cardiac surgeons and cut somebody open. It's because we don't have the license to do that.
Therapy on their structures around their chest that can help them to get a better heart.
So we really believed in holism of the person. So we address mind, body, and spirit. And the mission statement is consciousness rehabilitation for the world, one person at a time. If we can take some pain out of somebody, maybe they could be a little bit happier.
Yeah, I remember I was working on somebody that Jen sent when we first started going out, and she had pericarditis, so inflammation around the lining of her heart, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic pain, diabetes. I forgot what else she had, on a lot of meds, and she had a fever that hadn't been going away for many months. And so she came in, we actually worked on her 20 hours, me and my therapist in San Diego, and her fever went away. And then she made one lifestyle change. She got gluten-free, and then we saw her here and there when we would see her, and she lived a few states away. And then she got to the point where she didn't have any more pain, but she was still on lots of meds. And then the doctors found some sort of abnormality, and they were going to go do some little procedure. And they said she had to come off of all of these medications while she went through this procedure. And so she came off her medications, and she felt even better. So she talked to her doctors, and she didn't go back on her meds. And then she didn't even need her rheumatoid arthritis doctor anymore. And her chronic pain went away, and she was good. And what's cool is in the first week, we did 20 hours, and I guess they were eating together, the family, and she started talking about when she was a little girl, and they all looked at her like amazed, because she was talking about when she was a cheerleader, and all this little girl heart stuff came up, and they looked at her like, this isn't like you to be talking about this kind of stuff. And so we had been working around structures around her heart, and what came up was like all this wonderful story and feelings about being a little girl and then being a cheerleader, and it's like, what? so it's kind of cool. So when you say consciousness for and healing for the whole world, it's really it's not just like a tagline. It's like
it's special to see those pieces, and we toss around, we're all been zombied or educated or forced to learn about Western medicine and put it all in a disease process. Like, I have diabetes now, or I have high blood pressure now, and we carry them as a wound, and we also carry them as a badge of courage, right? If you have diabetes, well, if you ate better and you didn't have Dunkin' Donuts every morning and all those Hershey Kisses, you may not get. So there's Western medicine shames you about the diseases. Everybody's looking for that answer. And as soon as they get a label, oh, well, okay, now I just have to take insulin the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, do you realize that your pancreas isn't producing enough, that your sugar is not going into your cells, and you're breaking down, and you may have the possibility of having cancer and amputations in the future? But we forget all those little snippets.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting.
So the school and the passion that I have ever since I was 12 years old, Ralph, I can remember I've never worked a day in my life. I've enjoyed the things that I've been and the things that I learned. We've both run businesses. We've both, in our younger days, been employees of different institutions, and then we became our own businessmen and type. And there is a little bit like, oh, I have to work now. Now I have to be on vacation, and it's being available and learning that lesson. Every Tuesday night we have a conference of students. So I brought up Ben's case to the students, and we walked through the scenario. And we just had a 25-year-old that tested positive for COVID, and his oxygen extremely went down, but the parents were worried about him going. So Lori Lund in North Carolina called me up, and we worked together. And step by step, we used the supplement tools, we used the body work, and his oxygen went down to 85 at one point. And still they did, he was saying I'm okay enough. And we worked it back up again to now day 3 after that point. He felt better after he got the body work, he did the nutrition. And so everybody is working on connecting those pieces together.
Yeah, and there are practitioners around the world, and you do know them. They have access. They can have access to you, and I know we.
Yeah, well, the best piece is I love the critical thinking we give the student at the end, and you know when you don't know something, or
Yeah.
when it's your own son and you can't think straight.
Yeah, you saw me. You told me to breathe, and so yeah, and you gave us a couple of they're called templates and blueprints, and I haven't done them yet. Ben only, he says, okay, Papa, he's giving me more time than he usually ever does. He's the kind of kid that if he's got a cold, sniffling and all that, you say, Ben, you got a cold, and he's like, no, I don't. And he's just like, he doesn't even, he's the strongest mind I've ever seen. And so he tells me, and he loves ritual, and he loves training, and he loves order things. And he looks at his watch, and he said, okay, so he's giving me a lot of time. He says, you can work on me for 20 minutes 3 times today. So I'm like, okay. So it's like, I looked at the 2 template blueprints you gave me, and I'm like, I told him that today we're going to do them, Ben. And because yesterday I had less time with him, and so I did the bone bruise technique to the collarbone and the first, second, third rib, and energetic stuff, and he's like looking really happy because he's like, it's moving to here, Papa. So it's like wow, and that's beyond the usual predictor of an outcome for a collarbone what looked like a fracture. So it's like when it first happened, I brought Ben home from when it happened, and I said, call Tom. And there you were. And he said, okay, get a pen and paper out. Here's what you do. And then we got to work. And yeah, and so we got this thing. You guys had multiple clinics around the world, and you got your clinic in West Hartford, Connecticut, which I highly encourage people to go see you, imtwellnesscenter.com. And we've got this dream to have this place where like a training, it was Sharon's dream. It's like your baby, you were saying, if there's somebody out there that wants to be part of something big, like there's a medical system that's like lets everybody in, and then guided down the path of this innate way of healing. And it has to do with spirit, and it has to do with really putting hands on and really feeling stuff, and basically doing this kind of healing. Let us know, because maybe there's some sort of like way to bring some people in. Yogananda, when he was bringing yoga to the world, there was a guy, James Jesse Lyons, who a big businessman guy, and got into Yogananda's work, and basically became enlightened and liked hanging around with Yogananda. And one day when Yogananda came back from traveling around the country, he was doing his PR, about yoga and self-realization. And James Jesse Lyons gifted him the Self-Realization Fellowship, which is like many acres right in Encinitas, California, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And now it's like a wonderful thing that does a lot of good in the world. And so if there's a James Jesse Lyons out there that wants to chat with us, and do something really big and fun and good, I'm just putting it out there. What would you say is the underlying premise or the idea around what makes integrated manual therapy different, or what's the idea around healing when you think of something you could like boil it down for somebody, just regular person?
Well, a few things. We actually touch people, and there's a lot of things that do touch people. but they feel elementary and rudimentary to what the sophistication that we have with those pieces. I feel that we have conquered and developed a few, really good things, like we can help a spinal cord, we can help a traumatic brain injury, we can help people get back to normal those way, and we're always interested in learning more. Right. And after, Ralph, you did 7 or 8 years journeying, you went in and looked at other different systems, and you've come back and taught me a little bit about that and say, hey, here's where I think it's missing, and we always incorporate. If I ever said, no, we do it better, or we don't want to even look at it, that's not where we come from. It's always like,
and that's
let's
really
see
an amazing trait, because so many people get to their point and then they say, this is it. And it's like, it's not. Sharon told me once, she singled me out in St. Helena, California. There was a class, and I still have my anxiety, very self-conscious. And there was probably like 100 people in that class. And I had realized the night before, looking through the materials, that I didn't even have all the prerequisites. So I was like freaking out. And so then I was sitting there in class, and Sharon looked over at me and said, when Ralph gets where we are now, we're not going to be here. And I was like, thanks for talking about me in the middle of class here. But it's like, you guys just keep going.
it's always fun, and we try to do it faster, better, and that's mastery of a skill. So we've had some big discoveries sometimes. So like the bone bruise, right?
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Right. And we used to try to work with people who had stress fractures or just a chip on their bone and everything else. And then one day, we've done this 100 times, and look, they feel better. So it's the art and practice to be always curious.
Always curious. Yeah.
I feel that the ultimate goal is to have this be the ultimate mission statement for the school, again, is consciousness rehabilitation for the world, and to be the next recognized bodywork system at the level that we have chiropractic and osteopathic medicine and naturopathic medicine. And I wouldn't mind if a medical school wanted to pick us up as their alternative medicine division, and we can teach there, or a physical therapy school. We envisioned, and I still hope to have this one day, where like in China, and in India, they have acupuncture hospitals or that specialize in that, but when that doesn't work, they bring in the medical guys. So or Ayurvedic clinics that do the same thing. So I wouldn't mind having an institution that tried to abide by the principles of IMT. Let's get the structure done first, and then if it doesn't work, make sure we have the best of everything else to be there. So we envisioned, and we've always talked about having a grounds where the school would be like a university, and then there would be a community that people could live in, to farm and to just live and love, and come in once a week and take all the principles we have of living and body work and reversal medicine, and then just be able to walk into that and live the best years of their life at the end.
That's a wonderful thing.
And to apply this to veterinary medicine, apply it to farms, farming and agriculture. And we've done research. We have divisions that are just sitting latent, that we have really powerful information. Ralph has seen our libraries of documentation. We have documentation on how to do fertilizer for plants and how to make remedies better. How to do all these things. But it's a style, it's a community, it's a culture that again, it's actually probably a nationality, basically, because we can incorporate. And just to relay that, if you had a German mother or Italian mother or some foreign country, they had herbs that were common for gentle health pieces. And there's a community of IMT says, okay, here's your 5 remedies that gives you this piece. And so I'd love to bring it into that type of lifestyle. Oh, when you get a cold, just go chew on this herb for 5 minutes and that should go down, type of thing.
Yeah, we have a bunch of, we have some friends here that are way into herbs, and it's just like, yeah, take this. And I didn't use this one. I need to go back and look at it. She gave me some sort of like formula using comfrey and some other stuff to put on the bone to heal.
Right.
But I didn't.
Those poultices are always good to know about, and you know that you've Edgar Casey Society and the Price,
Pottinger.
right? And so there's beautiful work that's just sitting there, and about IMTs like saying, "Oh, let's grab this from this guy, let's grab that from this guy, and let's see if we can make
Yeah.
it times faster." You know,
Yeah,
there's always
Pottinger, Gerson. Yeah. You know who I'm thinking of is the Vaccines Reveal guys. Patrick Gentempo is a chiropractor, and Bo Pierce, and and then they're really good buddies with Zach Bush, who does regenerative farming and is way into consciousness. And then Del Bigtree, who his goal is to eradicate man-made disease, and their nonprofit.
Right.
I'm going to reach out to them. I've already like contacted them and do little loose like communications with them. I've met Del Bigtree in person a few times. That's the next level, I think, is to get them to see this, because there's lots of people doing a lot of really good work, and the umbrella of integrated manual therapy would be a really cool way to bring this in and say, okay, you got this, you got that, you got this. Let's see what it does. Oh, look, it does this to the bone. Oh, look, it does this to the heart. Oh, look at this. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to play with everybody, and we want to say we don't have the cure to a lot of things, but if you know there's another way of looking at the same picture of the puzzle, it's always good to have two of those pieces. So there's the purity of learning a system. I call that the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. But then there's stepping off and playing, and that's what I've been doing a lot this year. Is you know working with you and your distance abilities and other healers, and you know they're coming back and gently saying, "Here's the process," and to bring the whole community back. You know, the community that we had in 2000 to 2010 is just sitting there. And I feel that they're maybe a little lost or they're a little confused, and I'd love to reorchestrate them. We
Yeah,
just
we
have
were like on a mission. I mean, we would meet each other all over the country and Canada, and some of us all over the world. And it was like, oh, we're in the hotel and there's everybody again. We're like working together, taking classes together, and then heading back out to our rural community and doing good. Yeah.
and I just feel we have the potential, and we're just figuring out how to juggle through this now COVID constraints of that whole piece. And it'll be interesting even to watch how the Olympics go and see how the world relates to those communities and stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know,
That's so
if we,
cool.
you know, if we saved Ben's clavicle from being a fractured clavicle and healing and without surgeries and medications, and it heals 3 times faster than the predictors of outcome, I think we've been successful.
Yeah, and we took the little tuning fork, and at first, you know, it hurt on a couple of spots. So sign of a bone fracture, and now it's not hurting. So it's like, and he's moving his arm a little bit. You know, I'm telling him, don't move your arm much right now. He wanted to play basketball last night. Like, no, you got the basketball. So yeah, this is cool. And so you and Sharon had this thing of like, okay, this is going to be our baby. This is what we're going to bring to the world. Your heart's desires. Anything you want to tell anybody about, like, you know, heart's desires, and you know, you like, you know, you work from the outside. People would say you don't work. Are you kidding me? You work all the time. But then it's heart's desires, and people have these different gifts, and this is crucial times, I think, to if you got something to do in the world, now is the time to do it. You know?
Yeah, this is the time, and we're you and I are trying to figure out how to make the structure and the foundation much more sound than the last time. And you know, none of the things that we learned in the 80s and 90s are institutions anymore, really. So so we're reforming ourselves, and I think this next year is going to be really big.
It's going to be a big year. Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
And like you said, we all need angels and helpers, and you know, I feel there's going to be 5 or 10 angels that want to help and see this part of the world. And you know, every step we take together and separately will conjunct that together. And
Yeah.
I'm just reminding you, Ralph, we have a date on the 7th, 8th, and 9th is summer school again.
Okay, of August.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, man, thank you. Well, let's just go, everything Tom wants, everything you all want, everything we want. Okay, you guys, Tom, thanks, man, always good to see you, always really good to see you, and I'll see you real soon. And so imtwellnesscenter.com for Tom, imtwellnesscenter.com, and I've got a miracle 3-minute session, ralphhavens.com/miracle, 3 minutes, and give it a try and see what's different. All right, you guys, thank you, Tom, really appreciate
Bye,
it.
Ralph. Have a good week.
Have a good week.